it's nothing crazy. It's just you have to come up with the equations first before you can solve them. The good news is, once you come up with your equations, you can solve them any way you want. All right. So for me, and again, this is like a gift, right, from me to you. It's not something that you're going to be able to do on the Regents. They will not accept this as an approach. But once you come up with your equations, because that's the unique skill, if you wanted to use the RRF technique to solve from there, you're welcome to do that. All right. There's no requirement that you do it algebraically or graphically. You just need to come up with the answers. All right. So on the test, I promise you, I will not give you a word problem and then write only an algebraic solution will be accepted or only a graphical solution will be accepted. It will be, give me the answer. Because the skill I'm looking for is whether you can define your variables appropriately and come up with the equations. And then, yes, I would also like the answer, but that's not as important. All right. So in number 2, Ava tells her little brother Tony that she is holding 20 coins, all of which are dimes and quarters. They have a value of $4.10. She says she will give them the coins if he could tell her how many of each she is holding. What would you tell Tony to help him solve this problem? Now, that's a Regent's way of asking the question. It's kind of frustrating because I would tell him, well, good luck, pal. You're probably not going to be able to guess it. So give up.
No.
Go get some ice cream. Yeah, like I would make it, something enticing for him. Like, okay, you're not going to win this battle, but let's go get a slice of pizza and some ice cream. All right. But the question really is saying, how many dimes and how many quarters is Ava holding? All right. So that's our let statement. So this is too thick. It's appealing, but it's going to take too much space. So let X equal number of dimes and Y equal a number of quarters. Now you can go with D and Q if you want. The only concern with that, and it's not a major concern, but the only reason I would probably steer away from that would be if I wanted to use a graphing approach, graphing calculator, or creating a graph on paper. I would rather have X's and Y's, because if I'm thinking of an X-intercept or a Y-intercept, it's a little bit clearer if there are X and Y values in there. All right. She's holding 20 coins. All right. Well, number of dimes, number of quarters have to add to equal 20. They have a value of $4.10. All right, well, what's the value of a dime? 10 cents. So 0.1, because we're working in dollars and cents, so 0.1 X plus, well, then a quarter would be 0.25 Y. It is Friday, right? Yep. Oh, thank the maker. All right, 410. All right, so you have 4 strategies. You could graph it. You can substitute. You can eliminate. Or you could RF. All right. And again, I need to make sure I say this repeatedly. On the Regents exam, RF is not a thing. All right. I mean, you could use RF for multiple choice. If there's a multiple choice question, you can use RF. But they're not going to accept it for free response. All right. So I'm going to say that probably 1,000 times before the year's over. Right? Not even necessarily with just this topic. All the little calculator shortcuts and hacks that I teach you, anything that is allowable on the Regents, I'll make that clear. Whatever they're not going to allow, I'll also make that clear. All right, so decide on what method you want to use and then solve it. All right, so in this case, I'm thinking elimination. If we're gonna do it by hand, it's set up in standard form, X, Y, and then the constant. So I'm thinking elimination. Probably easiest to get rid of the x's. So what should I multiply my first equation by? Negative 0.1. So we're looking at, and I'll rewrite, negative 0.1 x minus 0.1 y equals negative, what's 10% of 20? 2. So negative 2. And then 0.1x plus 0.25y equals 4.1. X's cancel. We're going to have a 0.15 y equals 2.1.
Yeah.
Now, we are talking about numbers of dimes and quarters, so if I get something that's not a whole number, I'm going to be a little concerned. Divide both sides by 0.15. What do I get?
5 was 14.
14. And so x would have to be what then?
6.
6. I mean, you can set up an equation to figure that out if you want, but if we know that they're going to total out to 20 coins and you got 14 of them as dimes, quarters, and the rest have to be dimes. All right? Word problems, so indicate what it is. I mean, you don't have to write a complete sentence. Like, Tony would have to, I mean, it implies that you should, but I don't have an attention span for that. So what would you say? Tony would have to guess that there are no, just 14 quarters and 6 dimes. Okay. All right. So, number 1, in Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, Tweedledum says the sum of your weight and twice mine is 361 pounds. Tweedledee replies, the sum of your weight and twice mine is 362 pounds. Find both of their weights. All right, so I have to define my variables, so I'm going to let x equal D's weight. I'm not writing Tweedledee. And y could be Tweedledum's weight. So Dum's weight. All right. This question has more to do with perspective than anything else. So it's a two-way situation. All right. So it's from the perspective of Tweedledum first. All right. That individual is saying the sum of your weight. So whose weight is he referring to? D's weight, right? The sum of your weight and twice mine, so 2y, would be equal to 361. Now the perspective changes. We're looking at Tweedledee is the one that's talking. So when he says, actually, I've never actually read Through the Looking Glass, so I don't know if these are males or females or. Oh, they are, okay. It could be brother or sister. I don't know. Like
They're bros.
they're bros. They're twin brothers. Okay. So just want to make sure I'm getting the references correct. All right. So Tweedledee is speaking to Tweedledum. So the you when he says the sum of your weight, he's talking about y, and twice his weight would be 362. All right. The first one was 361. The second one was 362. So now it's a matter of choice. You can decide which technique you want to use to solve, and it really doesn't matter which method you use. Now, since it's pretty much set up the way we would like it for elimination, I'm just going to do it that way. All right. So I'll combine a couple of steps, but the first thing you need to decide, and you can't go wrong with this, except one technique is usually, or one approach is a little bit easier, usually. You want to decide which variable you want to get rid of. So which one am I going to kill, X or Y? X? Okay. So if I want to get rid of the X's, I have a 2X here and a 1X there. What should I multiply my first equation by? Negative 2. So I'll make that product. So we're looking at negative 2x minus 4y is equal to negative, what, 722?
I'll check for you.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Yeah, 722. Negative.
Yeah, like I said. All right. So the other equation has the y coming first. I'm just going to rewrite it so that the x comes first. 2x plus y. You don't really need to do that as long as you keep it organized, at least in your mind.
Why would you not do the thing where you multiply each equation by a number?
Because you would be getting the job done just by multiplying the first one by -2. Really what we're actually doing behind the scenes without showing the work is we're multiplying this equation by the coefficient of x here. But since that coefficient is 1, it's not going to change anything. You know, no problem. So we have -3y is equal to -360. Oh, it just disappears on me. So -3y is equal to -360. Let me just get the 0 in there. Divide by the -3. And I'd be looking at y is equal to positive?
No. Oh, yeah. Positive.
Positive, right? All right. So let's say we did all the work and we came up with a negative. How would we know that we made a mistake?
If you check it and it doesn't work,
Check it mathematically, but also,
it can't be negative 120 pounds.
yeah, you can't be negative 120 pounds. All right. So that's probably the better way to think about it, because I mean, anytime you have a word problem, I mean, any system of equations, you could always check it mathematically, but anytime you have a word problem, you have the added benefit of context. All right. So if we're talking about times or distances or things like that, there may be situations where negatives make sense, but in all likelihood, they're not going to. All right. So I need to find the corresponding value of x. So I'll choose the equation that I like more, really. That's what it comes down to, because they're both pretty nasty. I'll take the first one. X plus 2y is equal to 361. I'm going to replace the y with the 120. So x, that's not a marker, x plus 2 times a 120 is going to be 361. So x plus 240 is equal to 361. Subtract 240 from both sides, and we get x equals 121. All right, so we have our two values. All right, we can never just leave it as x equals this, y equals that. You don't have to worry about the notation being set notation or interval or anything like that. We do have to answer the question, though. All right, it says find both of their weights. I know one of them is 121 and the other is 120, but like if it were even a multiple choice question, one choice could be Tweedledee's weight is 121 and Tweedledum's weight is 120, and another choice could be the reverse. All right, so we're just make a statement here. You could just tuck it in by your let statements. I didn't really leave myself enough room for that, so I'll just write it as like a little statement on the side. D, talking pounds, so 121 pounds. You could use the abbreviation for pounds, which is LB for some reason. And Tweedledum is $1.20, soaking wet. And so as long as you just make a statement, because again, I mean, I've said this a few times, but it doesn't always stick. In in terms of your verbal explanation for your final answer, I'm not overly concerned with a lengthy narrative. But if it's a word problem, if the question's presented in word form, your answer should be presented in word form. Doesn't have to be a lengthy narrative because I don't have the attention span for it. All right. You can write an essay. I'm only going to read through. I'm going to skim through it and try to find the keywords that I'm looking for. So it's just wasted effort on your part. All right. It's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like having a conversation with me too. Like, people will talk to me and I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. And I'm just listening for keywords. Okay, so, all right. So, eggs, milk, and cheese. That's what I gotta get from the grocery store. Okay, cool. All right, good. I don't know why that took 15 minutes for you to explain, but that's really where I'm at. You know, so just keep it simple and to the point because one, you can work on just being concise, and that's always going to be a good thing. And two, I just don't have the attention span for it. All right. And for some of us, that works out very well because we had no desire to write anything lengthy to begin with, so we're all on the same page.
I just have a question.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to kill this real quick.